to have my chair higher than everyone else.
Exactly.
Here it is. The last week of 2014, and it's time again for the polemic pool. Hello,
Yes,
everyone.
Hey,
Welcome
Laura.
back. Welcome back to the polemic pool. Hello, people.
Hello, this is Steve Anderson.
And Jerry Bowes.
I'm Laura Casaletto. Hi.
And it's another round of the polemic pool, and I think Steve Anderson has the topic to present to us today.
Yeah, like I mentioned last time, it is kind of a red meat issue, but it seems to crop up quite a bit. It never seems to go away. And the discussion is guns in a free democratic society. And I want to be specific about that because I think it makes things a little different than if the society were not open and not free. We do have freedoms here, and so with that comes a lot of responsibility, and many of us subscribe to and consider the Second Amendment of our Constitution to mean that we have the right to bear pretty much almost all arms to protect ourselves, our family, our nation, or whatever. So anyhow, that's basically the general statement. I guess I look at the Second Amendment like I would the First Amendment. Yes, you have the freedom of speech. However, there are responsibilities that come with that too. One can't scream fire in a theater, and perhaps one shouldn't have a,
There are libel
a
laws.
30 clip magazine in their, their semi-automatic weapon. So where those lines get drawn is certainly a societal decision. At that point, I will open it up.
You haven't laid a polemic before us.
Okay. I think the Second Amendment is not to be tampered with, and you better be damn careful about confiscating or even intimating too much control over guns, because I think this Second Amendment is quite a powerful thing. How about that? Is that at all polemic? Or is that pretty...
I guess amongst liberals that is, right?
I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say.
Well,
I want you to be the most Steve you can be.
Oh, that would be completely incoherent, and neither one of you would understand what I was saying.
so let's not go there.
Let's not go there.
Let's stay in the coherent realm.
Okay.
I used to belong to the ACLU.
Okay.
And I was for many years. And I was having a conversation about the Second Amendment with some conservative friends of mine. And they were pissed at the ACLU because they didn't stand up for gun rights.
Oh.
And I thought about it for a second. I said, you're absolutely right. To my knowledge, it's not something that they pursue.
Not very often.
I can't think of any. There may be.
There's a few cases.
There are some cases.
There are.
I never researched it.
Yeah.
But it's certainly not the kind of thing that comes to mind.
You're right.
They talk about free speech, freedom of assembly, that sort of thing.
Yes.
But very, very, very seldom do they pursue.
There's a whole
gun
organization for that purpose, though.
Right, and the NRA. And that was the only thing I could think of to say in response, was that there's plenty of support out there for gun rights via the NRA and other groups. So the ACLU concentrates on what it really wants to concentrate on, and that's freedom of speech primarily, that and assembly.
Yeah.
But, liberals don't like this issue a whole lot. They don't, because... Isn't it odd? Liberals don't like guns. Conservatives tend to.
Yes.
And I don't really understand that completely.
Yeah.
You don't
Yeah.
buy your entire set of values from a political party, Jerry?
Well, no, I don't know quite where that comes from in a way. Is it the peace activist side of our liberal youth? Like, Steve and I know we're demonstrators back in the '60s. Part of the
Right.
peace movement.
Right.
Does it come from that?
I don't think it does, and I don't want to until Laura kind of jumps into the foray. I don't want to get too involved, but I have my theorems about why that's that way, but I don't want to control the conversation.
Shut up, Steve.
Exactly what I'll do, Ollie.
Well, I like it that there are pro-gun people
Mhm.
and that there are anti-gun people, and that leaves me comfortably in the middle, not really caring, But to me, it's clear that the NRA is stridently pro-gun in every situation to the point of absurdity, and that is just their philosophy.
Yeah. They've definitely extended their range of well, how do you call it? I can think of some negative things to say, but
No, they're disgusting. I think they're really disgusting.
They're very outrageous.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no grounds about gun restriction whatsoever that they will consider in any way, in any form whatsoever.
However, their strategy is successful. Compare gun
Oh, yeah.
rights to smokers' rights. Smokers don't defend their rights, and the rights are chipped away constantly, right? So the NRA to me is sort of like the pro-Israeli lobby. It's just constantly after any possible slippage of rights.
Hammer, and try
Yeah.
to extend as much as possible, not just protect but extend.
Yeah, because I'm clearly against selling guns to people who have mental issues, and I'm against the United States gun manufacturers selling guns all over the world and spreading death all over. Those are bad things.
Well, just the notion of selling guns to the mentally ill. 90% of the people of America, in various kinds of polls, wording it different ways, agree with that proposition. Yet the NRA can foster enough political will in pressure in Congress to defeat any attempt to restrict gun ownership to the mentally ill.
Well, you not to throw the slippery slope in so early in our conversation, but I will. How does one define what mentally ill is? For example, if Laura has an anxiety issue, and so consequently her psychologist prescribed some sort of tranquilizer or antidepressant, would she be considered mentally ill and then not be eligible to have a concealed weapon? I mean, I don't know where that line gets drawn.
And I think that's part of the argument by the NRA folks.
Is there a line? Is there a determination? Is there a law? I guess I just don't know this, that mentally ill people, whatever that means, are ineligible to protect themselves.
Well, I like laws that have flexibility in them. I feel that we're anal and mistaken to try and make a specific exact law for every situation.
Sure.
And but I like it if people need to have a gun permit and have to wait 3 days. I'm fine with that.
Sure.
And some kind of approval process. I'm fine with that. We do that for every other thing.
And that's what we're talking about, the approval process for people who may suffer from schizophrenia,
Yeah.
or have a history
Well, domestic abuse.
of domestic abuse, of violence, of sometimes it can be a criminal, and it's more obvious, be a felon, but you can also have a history of violence that doesn't necessarily led you to criminal acts, but it's still there. It's it's in your medical record that you have outbursts and are prone to violence.
So maybe if you have you're taking a prescription for anxiety, you have 3 criminal offenses that involve resisting arrest or something, and you don't get a gun, good. So what?
Right.
I mean, the devil's in the details.
It
And I'm
really
not
is.
enough of an expert to,
No.
wrestle with all those details.
Yeah.
But I think there's a line can be drawn, a sensible, reasonable thing that can be put forth. But I don't think we're going to get there because any attempt to make any kind of designation that way is thwarted through the political pressure of the NRA and like groups.
So politics is stupid.
Well,
It
no.
is.
It can be.
It is.
It can be.
It's
From their perspective, if you're going to err on the side of freedom of having a gun, as opposed to not giving you the right to have one.
okay. Great.
So that's where they would.
But it comes
come
at a cost. It comes at a huge social cost.
Of course.
Actually, not that huge. We don't have that much gun violence when you consider how much guns we have.
Well, but I also think that when you have the entire country of Canada has as many gun deaths as the city of Baltimore,
Yeah.
then we are adrift in gun violence.
I don't think so. I think that there. What do we have? Like a gun for every adult in this country? It's like some huge number of guns.
Somebody's making it up for me. You know?
I'm going to make that number up and say it's like.
So what do we
equal.
got? 280 million or something? Are we close?
Close to that.
Yeah.
All right. So you're saying basically there's
280
280
million guns
There's-
out there.
All right, I'll buy that
There's
number.
a huge number of guns, and yet very, very rarely do we kill one another. Very, very rarely do we shoot one another. This doesn't hardly happen at all, even though we're just another animal. You know, we are no different than any other animal, and yet it is extremely rare that I break into someone's house or that I shoot someone. That doesn't happen that much.
You know, I was talking about societal costs before. You may have some kind of point there. We are a little bit better than we used to be as far as gun violence goes, and violence in general in society. But America is still kind of a special case in the developed world as how many guns deaths there are. It's extraordinary. But another aspect of the gun culture that is in America is that I think it has carryover effects to other things. It helps make us, I think, want to be the sheriff of the world, to be gun tooting around the world,
Ooh.
Imposing our will and getting things right, getting things settled, sorted out over there. And
Shoot 'em and let God sort it out. Kind of
that sort of attitude.
vigilantism, kind of a thought process.
And then look at the dynamic that it's had on our race relationships. With we've gone through Ferguson and the New York incident and the mass demonstrations across the country about police violence on minorities recently, and it's again all related to the gun culture in a sense.
Well,
We turn to the violent solution. We have all these hammers in our society, and if you have all these hammers, you find a lot of nails.
Exactly right.
Well, you know, I was saying a minute ago that we're living in the future, and most of us don't know it, and we're carrying on as previously, right?
Right.
But we're living in the future, and we're in an age of 3D printers where you can now print a gun.
Yes.
Just think ahead two baby steps, and we're coming up with new kinds of deadly weapons,
Oh, yeah.
perhaps with far more killing capacity of types of weapons you can't even picture right now, and that these are then available to the average American citizen. And guns may be only the beginning of the problem that we will have. And so when I say that our nature isn't that bad and that we're not doing that bad, that's good, because we're going to be able to kill each other in unprecedented ways very soon. Maybe you'll be able to print off some kind of killer disease that you could wipe out 5 cities with before you could be stopped in the very, very near future. I can easily imagine that.
Well, not even going with the biotech, we have drones now that are flying killer robots,
Yes.
and we are talking about there's a whole new generation of robots in development for the battlefield,
Yes.
and that they would be coming out very quickly, and they could be presented domestically just as easily.
They will be eventually. I'm
They
sure.
will be. We'll have police robots soon enough, killer robots. Then, doesn't that make an argument for more guns in the home or privately against such a new threat to
or the
humankind?
opposite, that guns actually become old old weaponry, because the drones and
You
the
can't,
3D,
you can't take out a drone with a shotgun.
yeah. So
Sounds
the
fun,
guns, this part of the gun lovers, I call them gunophiles, but sorry guys, but their argument is that they want this protection to protect them against the government. Well, okay, I understand their argument, but your guns are just not going to cut it against what we're talking about right now, the modern weaponry our government has, our police departments have, the drones, all of the equipment that we have. That's not going to work.
No. The greatest defense against the government becoming tyrannical
Right.
are the people themselves,
Of course.
and the people in the military, and the people in the law enforcement,
Of course.
and their values.
Exactly. Yeah. So, well, and what really brought me bringing the subject up is our last conversation, talking about our democracy and how so many things are crumbling, and we talked about the race relations and the police departments and the militaristic, what I think is a militaristic police state that we have to be concerned about, and that's what kind of brought into guns. One thing though, each culture has certain dynamics to it. A lot of it is based on how that country first was adopted, under what situations. But if you look at our history, it shouldn't be a real shock that we're
No.
lovers of guns.
No.
And for us to somehow pretend that that's going to go away, it's so inculcated into our selves as a cultural person. You can't help, it's just part of us. So, should we just say, well, just let it be? There's got to be checks and balances, and hope that saner people will find that middle road between extremes on both ends. So
Yeah. I'm pro hunting, though, definitely. I went to the store today, and I kind of need to eat some meat now and then. Otherwise, my joints hurt and stuff. And I just looked at all of that beef, and I was like, I know these cows had a bad life.
Right.
And I don't want to buy this meat.
Right.
But I would be more than happy to go out and shoot something and eat it. I have
Right.
no problem with that.
Right.
It's going to die anyway.
Right.
But at least it will get to be a deer or whatever.
Sure.
It'll have a chance to be a deer before it becomes me.
I've been a little vociferous, in my passionate sort of way tonight. But I started out as a hunter. I used to hunt small game and deer, and I got past that myself. I had a change of heart after I went to college, because I became more politically aware and more politically involved, and I became anti-war in regards to the Vietnam War, and it changed my attitude towards guns and violence in general.
Yes.
It was sort of an intellectual thing that was also had an emotional element to it, and it moved me away from being a participant. But I understand.
Sure, of course.
I understand that world. I grew up with guns on my wall in my bedroom as a kid, and I was I'm thoroughly aware of their attraction, And I
Little
got,
kids like get sticks and point them and go bang.
yeah, yeah. And it's part of our human nature, and I get it, and I wouldn't want to deprive hunters of that ability, but I just think that the social costs of where we're at with gun violence in the United States is it's awful. It's a disgrace compared to what democracies in other parts of the world. When Steve started our conversation, talking about it in a democratic society. Other democratic societies have come to the conclusion that, we can decrease the amount of social impact by gun violence in our society by greatly restricting the number of guns. And yet they still hunt. And yet there's still, where there's a need for home protection, there is. We just seem to be out of balance.
Yeah, and I think what really accentuates the problem is the urban environment. You get enough human beings packed in a small enough area, and then you include X amount of, what we say, every person in the country has a gun. That is a recipe for a disaster. Now, take it into a different environment, a more rural area where your neighbor is a mile and a half down the street and you have X amount of acres and you want to shoot a deer that's on your land.
Heck, you might want to shoot something that's coming after you in your yard at that point.
Exactly.
You might need to shoot a bear that's going after your kid.
Right. Yeah, exactly. So, I think when the Second Amendment was written, we were a agrarian society, and our cities, although some populated, not even close to the degree that they are now, and to have a city that has 10 million people within its satellite city and have all these people with guns, that can't be good.
Well, look at Chicago of recent time. The huge number of deaths that they've had in just one weekend.
Yeah.
And there's been a proliferation of guns, and
Every 2 days in Chicago, somebody gets shot.
Especially handguns.
More than that.
And there's been a change in the culture of how one deals with slights. We're talking about urban pressures and everything, and
Sure.
we're talking really things like gangs and criminal violence, poverty. And
Yeah.
poverty is the issue there too, which helps breed all this.
Of course.
But there's been a stepping up of the degree of violence in that urban world. People used to settle issues with fistfights or knives.
Although,
But
actually,
now you got drive-bys.
Actually, was it Mark Twain has got passages, and Charles Dickens too came to America and wrote about people in the cities just pulling out guns and shooting each other and getting in knife fights right on the street.
Well, yeah.
Children with guns. So this isn't a new thing. You can go, oh my God, this is shocking. It's been going on for a couple hundred years.
Well, yes, it's been going on, but again, what magnifies the problem is the amount of population in a small enough, consolidated, condensed area. That, I think, is much, much more problematic than it would have been during the Charles Dickens time.
We've always been violent in our
of
nature.
Course. No, wouldn't. Yeah, of course.
No doubt about it. But there's been, I still assert that there's been a greater access to firearms in the past 50 years. It's been an increasing volume of firearms available, especially handguns, and that's where the majority of deaths come from, are handguns that have risen.
They don't go away, guns, do they?
And the lethal a type of weaponry and guns that we have too. You know, back in the day, Grandpa had a double-barrel shotgun, and that was his protection. Now, with these magazines and big clips and whatever, I mean, you're shooting off maybe 15, 20 rounds in a matter of seconds. You know?
Sure.
So it's different kinds of guns too.
That increases the lethality, how
Exactly.
lethal they are.
Yeah. I wonder if education has something that you mentioned that you went through, kind of an epiphany, or at least kind of
A process.
a process. I went from hunting to non-hunting, and part of that was maybe education and going to college and being exposed to different ideas.
But I'm saying that I've gone the exact opposite way through thinking.
Okay.
That I don't want to buy. You buy meat in a store, right?
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to buy meat in a store. I would prefer to go out and shoot my own. I don't actually do it, but I would definitely prefer it.
Well, yeah, mine was an actual behavior change.
Right.
Yours is more of an attitude change. There's a difference there. Just want to point that out.
Well, I was a vegetarian for a long time, but my body said, no, I need more. And so I went out to a farm and I killed 16 turkeys and butchered them. And I realized that this is not about guns, but what the heck. I realized that it wasn't the killing that was the problem. It was the animal having a good life. And this was a Quaker farm, and these turkeys were just running around playing, and boom, killed them. It took like 3 seconds to kill them, and then no other animal was even alarmed, and you had yourself some meat. And I went, oh, okay, this isn't really a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
It had a good life, and now it's going to be part of my body, and I'm going to have a good life.
Well, I don't want to get off topic.
But I like hunting. I mean, I like hunting mushrooms in the woods. I like going in the woods. I think it's a very healthy thing for people to do.
But I don't want to get off topic, but you hit on something, and I just want to say that everything is gradational. So, for example, I think your argument was I needed meat, the turkeys had a good life, and I don't see anything wrong with that. In other words, in this kind of linear kind of process, you drew your line at killing turkeys. Okay? Now, that's not a problem because I'm not a turkey, although people have called me that from time to time. But where does that gradational line begin and end?
Like, what, I shouldn't eat you?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so on one end, Laura says, well,
compost
I
you.
like dog, so my neighbor's got a
Oh,
good-looking
Oh, I would
dachshund,
so kill
and I would
75% of
kill
all the dogs
dogs.
and have them and feed them to people.
And then
I would completely do that.
And then
Yes,
on
I
the
would.
other end, that you would be a Janist that doesn't want to accidentally swallow a mosquito that gets in your mouth. So you got this huge spectrum, and all I think we're talking about tonight is, where do we draw the line societally as to the responsibility as a gun owner and the price we pay to have those rights.
Right.
And we don't really have that discussion politically.
We don't.
We don't. And that's the trouble. I think if we had that discussion politically, if we were able to do that, we might actually come up with some reasonable solutions.
Mm-hmm.
We might find some lines of agreement where, okay, you can do this, but you can't do this.
Right.
But we don't seem to be able to have that. Our political process, if I had to come to a conclusion, and I think we should be trying to wrap things up around now time-wise, is that my conclusion would be is that it's our political system at present which does not allow us to address the issue in a reasonable fashion.
Right.
That's my conclusion.
Yeah. And I would say that perspective is very important, and Steve mentioned a linear perspective, which isn't, it's really more, I have a more comprehensive view of most things,
Mhm.
and we're presented with things in a linear way. And this might be an example of where everyone is thinking about their own gun as opposed to what would benefit all of us.
Right, exactly.
And we couldn't, and we think what benefits all of us, we can agree. Almost everyone can agree, because we don't want our own kids shot in school. So that seems pretty simple. Yeah, it's just stupidity that's stopping it from being a little bit safer out there.
And yet, Laura made a good point regarding pushback. You know, you want the NRA on one hand to fight for the Second Amendment rights for people to have guns and to hunt, because you think that would be a better way to nourish the body. All right. So, and then you have on the other hand people that want to, whether it's Brady bills or citizens that have lost loved ones or injured loved ones because of gun violence. You want that kind of in a democratic society. You need that debate. You need
do.
that. And what you're saying, Jerry, is absolutely spot on. But for some reason that discourse gets kind of waylaid or distorted or manipulated, or maybe we're back to this money thing
It gets
again.
to subvert it, and there are moneyed interests too in
Well,
the gun lobby as well.
Hey NRA, why don't you offer us a suggestion of how we could deal with this problem of school shooting? NRA, we'll do whatever you recommend. Could you recommend something?
Well,
Please.
They already have.
They have.
Armed
everybody.
guards, armed guards,
armed
at
guard
school.
teachers. Everybody.
How are we going to
armed
raise the
guns.
money for that?
More guns.
And the argument they always make, which I think is kind of well, what do they say? They say citizens that are honest, law-abiding citizens is their phrase. And until you kill someone, you're a law-abiding citizen. Once you're not, then you're a criminal, and you should be incarcerated and put away. Well, the problem is today is a lot of these, especially these school shootings, we don't get to incarcerate or punish these people. They kill themselves. So they kill 15, 20, 30 people, and then they take the gun on themselves and kill themselves anyhow. So
And it's a
how do
mental
we...
mental illness issue
Yes.
again.
Well,
We're
these are...
We're right back to, full circle.
I know, and I'll take it back to the bigger picture again, because it's really interesting. These people are often people who are on psychoactive drugs, like every time. Yeah, and when you hear a new report come out, it's like, wait, you're going to hear they're on these meds, right? And the thing is that there is one little gene in your brain that regulates how you metabolize those drugs. And scientists, there's a name for it, but it's like 2 letters and 4 numbers. It's some name, but
Okay.
they know what it is, and you can be tested now to tell if you can metabolize these drugs well or not, and it varies from person to person.
Sure.
And these people are not metabolizing those drugs well, and lo and behold, there is a pesticide that is in 90% of our food supply that is manufactured by Monsanto that damages that thing.
Really?
Yes.
Did not know that.
Yes. So our food supply is indirectly causing these people to lose it like this.
Whoa.
Oh man, you are what you eat, huh?
Yeah. Yeah. We have crappy food, and our food supply is full of poisons and pesticides, and then we have this weird medicalizing of people with issues, and boom, then we have a collision there, and we get all these school shooters. It's very interesting. You can look that up.
Wow. This leads me to thinking about what our next discussion topic will be.
Wonderful, which is yours, right?
It's right. I guess it's my turn again to pick our topic. And since we're just about...
I'm sorry to be rude and
Go ahead.
interrupt you. Before we finish this gun thing, I just want the listeners to know I made a genuine attempt to actually have a gun rights advocate join us, because we're kind of to the left. Would it be fair to say we're to the left
I'd
of
say.
spectrum? And we wanted to be fair and balanced, but just for the record, they did not accept our invitation. So I'm sorry, go ahead.
Guess they didn't want to be ambushed.
Yes, very good.
But we would never do that.
Never!
Never. We'd keep it in our pocket.
That's
Come on.
right. Forget the polemic pool title.
All right. Well, it's coming to the end of the year, and we're just going to be launching off into 2015. And I thought for our next topic that I issue a challenge, actually, to my cohorts here
Uh-oh.
to come up with 2 issues, as I will myself, come up with 2 issues that in the year 2015 you will think will be the most pressing problem, be it scientific, cultural, political,
Problem or
a problem that we're facing.
it's negative then. It's
Yes.
okay.
Oh.
So
tell
not
you
a
what,
change.
I have just changed my mind.
Uh.
I would like 1 problem, 1 negative,
Okay.
and 1 positive.
That's good. Okay.
1 negative and 1 positive. And now, if we happen to come up with the same,
Yeah.
so be it.
Wouldn't it be
But we each independently on our own work on 1 problem and 1 positive
I know my positive
dynamic
already.
feature,
Ooh.
and that will be pronounced. You know, we're trying to be procrastinate. What's the word with
protagonist? No.
Oh.
futurists in a sense? We're trying to predict
Okay.
in this next year, what these big issues will be, pro
Okay.
and con.
That's good.
Okay, good,
Yeah.
good.
We'll
Yeah,
stick our
Well,
necks
that
out.
should be fun.
have some fun with that.
Absolutely. Well, very good. Good discussion again, and so we'll see you guys in a couple of weeks and talk about the future.
All right, thanks everybody.
Bye bye.
Bye.